Okay, so welcome to the Better Wealth and Health podcast. I am here today with Christopher Deaney, and we are here with Stand Up Energy. We're both standing up. We're both ready to give you great information to improve your life for better wealth and health. And Christopher Deaney is going to introduce many of us for the first time into a new natural product that is very intriguing, very interesting, and is probably going to become very popular in the very near future if you haven't heard about it already. So I'm going to start off with the first question here, Christopher. What was happening in your own life when you first discovered Kratom? And what inspired you eventually to create Christopher's Organic Botanicals? And of course, tell us while you're answering that, what exactly
Sure.
Kratom even is.
Sure. So it's simply speaking, kratom is a leaf from a tree, and it's been used in Southeast Asia for traditional medicinal use for thousands of years. It was first documented in the 1800s, and the Southeast Asian communities in Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia have been using this plant, and you can see the trees behind my head, and they just pluck some leaves off the tree, chew them, or they pluck
Those
maybe
are
20, 30
those are
kratom
Kratom
leaves.
trees behind. Those are Kratom leaves
Correct.
behind you. Okay.
Correct. They grow like the size of oak trees or pine trees, which
Yeah,
we're
it
familiar with.
looks like you're in the Everglades and down here in Florida.
Yeah,
It
right.
looks like that could be certain trees from the Everglades, possibly. Yeah.
Well, they do. They actually, interesting enough, they do have a natural kratom plantation in Florida. So
Okay.
Florida has
Okay.
the perfect environment. As you know, you go to South Florida, it feels like you're living in the Indonesian jungle. So you know what I
Right.
mean. That's where I was
Right.
born. Actually, I was born in Ormond Beach. So, uh,
Okay. Okay.
but
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why the pythons have taken over the Everglades
that's
because
scary.
they've come from, other countries, but because it's a similar environment with the humidity, they've taken over. So
Yeah.
yeah, so with kratom, how is it different or similar to something like ayahuasca, which is a little bit more popular, or kava, which is I've
Okay.
heard of as well.
Sure. And you could look at it like more like a kava, but kava's a root. This is just a leaf off a tree. You simply chew the leaves off the tree, you pluck a bunch and make boil it in some water and make a tea. Um, it's really unique to itself. It has over 50 alkaloids that work on four different systems of the body at the same time. For me, you had asked me, how did I find it? Well, I wasn't trying to start a business. I was actually hit by a car at 8 years old, and I was prescribed opiates for 15 years for chronic pain, and I deal with chronic pain severely every day. And I was just looking for something to help me function. And from a health point of view, I'd stopped the opiates back in my late 20s, and that was great, but I was taking a leave.
And to emphasize,
So,
because so many people get addicted to opiates, but I remember you told me before you did not get addicted. It wasn't an issue
now,
for you.
no,
Yeah.
because what it was is I would be like 3 months on, 3 months off in between surgeries, so maybe a half a year. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like a constant everyday thing. I'd be on it for every day for a few months and then off, then a few days on for a few days and a few months and then off. So it wasn't a constant thing. My actual addiction that I was having a problem with when I was growing up as a teenager in my 20s was alcohol. So that's one of the
Hmm.
most common, just drank too much because it helped with the pain.
Yeah.
So, but
Right.
that's what I was looking for. I was looking for something to help me naturally with pain. So I found this and I was sent a sample. I made a cup of tea, and in 20 minutes, my pain level went from about an 8 to a 2. And my focus was better. Just everything, my mood. I was like, what is this? Why don't I know about this at 39 years old? That's how old I was when I found it. And I said, my family studied medicinal plants and medicine and were early distributors of Herbalife in the early 80s and all these Chinese herbs I grew up around. I said, why haven't we ever heard of this? So that just led me
Yeah.
to start studying it.
Cool. Cool. Okay. And for someone who has only heard the word kratom in the news, what exactly is it? Um, and did you mentioned traditional natives would use kratom? What was it more for? You said medicine. medical use. So what does that mean? Was it ever used recreationally? Was it only for medicine? Can you also use it recreationally or no?
Yeah, people actually do use it recreational. It's related, it's a cousin to coffee. So people will chew the leaves for energy. The laborers in the fields would chew the leaves during the day to give them a boost of energy, just like we drink coffee. And that's what they found would help them get through the day. But also medicinally, the women, like after childbirth, for pain to help them in relaxation, they would brew them kratom or chew the leaves. For diarrhea, there's one of the alkaloids in there that helps with diarrhea. So there was all different things. I mean, it's just an amazing plant. I'm glad that finally our government's seeing that there's some value in this and they are studying it. So I'm very happy for that.
Yeah, I did hear recently, and I think we spoke about it before this podcast, where the same, because I heard a whole thing on the Tim Ferriss podcast about coca leaves,
Okay.
where there are some real fans of coca leaves, and we know that in especially for altitude sickness, it just helps tremendously with
Yes.
altitude sickness. And saying the coca leaves is similar to cocaine is saying like the potato is similar to vodka. They're just it's very separated. One thing is not the other. You have to really leach out and do a big chemical process to make vodka out of potatoes, and the same with making cocaine out of coca leaves. So it's not the same thing, but people assume it is. Um,
Yes.
and so kratom, I guess, yeah, it's similar, but it's more for a tropical environment. More like, I guess, coffee gives you energy. Because what country is kratom from again that you mentioned,
It's from
or what?
Southeast Asia, traditionally
Okay.
Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia. Most of the kratom that we see in the United States comes from Indonesia, but Thailand has regulated it over the last few years too. So we're seeing imports coming out of Thailand.
And
So
those
it's very
those are
cool.
all very hot, humid environments.
Yes, yes, tropical,
Yeah,
basically
and
the rainforest.
right. So it just makes me think from a logical perspective. The natives would want something. I mean, I know being in Miami, the humidity makes you lazy.
Yeah,
You get tired because it leaches the water out of you. And you're just like, if it weren't for
yeah,
air conditioning, I would just be a bum all day. But because I have air conditioning, I'm
yeah.
not. That something like coffee, I could see, and like kratom, that gives you an energy boost, is actually essential in that type of environment. Just like the coca leaves prevent you from getting altitude sickness when you're in high altitude areas. So it seems like, yeah, the natives are going to find something that's going to help them be more productive and live better lives, and that's basically what kratom is. It sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of medicinal leaves out there that get a bad rap. I mean, you just brought up
Right.
coca. The main scientist, Christopher McCurdy from the University of Florida, right there, he's been
Yes.
studying kratom since 2004. All right. He's recently
Okay.
been studying the coca leaf, went to the mountains and was chewing coca leaf while he was hiking. And he was like, you don't get high from this, you know? So he really has been
Right.
studying this plant. And I'm hoping to actually see plants like the coca leaf be allowed back into commerce for people to use medicinally because you don't get high from coca leaves. You have
Right.
to take, I think it's 800 pounds or 800 kilograms of coca leaves to make a kilogram of cocaine. Like nobody's doing that at
Yeah.
home.
Right.
So,
Right.
like what they're doing now with the laws with kratom, it seems to be that they want and will allow the natural leaf. But once you get past the natural leaf and you start making it into other products, they're going to be making those products Schedule 1. They don't want those products in the marketplace. The natural leaf's okay, but it seems like, or tinctures or extracts that are naturally balanced and based. But once you go past that and you start getting other products that are synthetic or semi synthetic, which are on the market, 90% of the kratom products on the market aren't the natural leaf. So
Okay.
that's been the problem.
And you actually want that to happen because as long as it's kept natural, it's going to be safer. That's the original intended use of it, right? Once they make it synthetic, it's like making cocaine out of the coca leaves. Once you make something synthetic, you take it out of its natural form. Now you're messing with Mother Nature. Now you're going to have problems. Is that sort of what you're alluding to?
Well, that's just the way I am. I love plant medicine as whole plant medicine the way God intended, and after you get past what nature intended, you're making a different product. So that's just
Right.
the way I view things. But
Yeah.
the government is also looking at it like they know the studies on natural leaf. They understand the natural balance. They understand it's not a problem. They're creating drugs for opiate withdrawal out of metrogenine, the main alkaloid in kratom. So they're making drugs out of these alkaloids in this plant, but they want to make the plant just safe. The plant, you know what I mean? They don't want the plant
Right.
banned. None of us want the plant banned, but also
Yeah. Well,
none of us
I'm
want the other
sure. I'm
alkaloids in
sure there are.
Schedule One.
Right, but I'm
So,
sure there are pharmaceutical companies that wouldn't don't really care if the plant gets banned as long as they can make their
of
patented
course,
chemical ingredient to sell. They're happy, you know.
and that's what we're fighting.
And
I'll be honest with you.
yeah,
That's what we've been
yeah,
fighting. Big Pharma and all the rest of them, because you know what?
right,
They know how beneficial this plant is, and you can't patent a plant.
yeah,
That's the bottom
right.
line.
You
You
can't,
can't
yeah,
patent a plant. So
yeah,
same thing goes back to cannabis. The cannabis plant. You know, if they hadn't made it
right,
Schedule One 80 years ago or whatever, everybody, we know now with the science that should have never happened. So now
right,
they're working through to see what we can change. You hear about iboga.
yeah,
Iboga is being taken off Schedule One to be used for therapy, psychedelics. So there's a
yeah,
lot of these natural plants they're seeing benefit in. But when it comes to
yeah,
the other products being made out of kratom, you know what I mean? They do cause they cause some addiction issues. They cause some other issues. People aren't dropping
right,
dead from them, but they're having problems with them. So the
right,
government doesn't want to see that problem basically peripherally and just go out. So they're trying to like rein
yeah,
it in. But I don't think Schedule One's the right thing because that comes with a criminal aspect. And I don't want to ever see people get criminalized for, there's some people in the pain community that use this synthetic stuff and it helps them a little bit. So they swear by it. But if
right,
they make it a Schedule One, then they become criminals. Who wants to see a pain patient in jail? That's like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it's kind
that's
of stupid.
ridiculous. And
So,
unfortunately, there's a lot of people who ended up in prison because they got addicted to the opioids and
yep,
then they had to sell them in order to keep getting it.
correct.
And it's a sad situation all around. Yeah. So you have
Yep.
spoken about the major difference between natural kratom leaf and extract concentrates, semi-synthetic products. And I think we just discussed there, it makes me think of like the GLP-1 drugs and how they are mimicking a natural diet. And that's going to be my 2 minute fit tip. So I'm going to skip over it because I'm going to talk about that a little bit at the end. Um, but all kratom products are obviously not created equally. What should someone look for if someone wants to get kratom? What should they be looking for to make sure they get it from a good source, that it's not contaminated, that it's safe? How can people know about that?
Well, the best bet right now until the marketplace gets cleaned up a little bit is make sure you see proper lab testing, lab results. You know what's in your product. The University of
Hmm.
Florida did basically a scan of 85. They looked at 85% of the products in the commercial market, and they weren't, you know, saying what was on the label. They were mislabeled. So that means there's 15% of the products on the market that actually are what they say. So that's the problem.
So
So the
only
market's getting cleaned
15%.
up.
Yeah.
That's according to the University of Florida, only 15% of the commercial kratom products that they tested were actually what was on the label. So,
Yeah.
right now you want to try to stick to, I tell everybody, if you've never tried kratom before, stick to the powder. It doesn't taste the greatest, but that's the traditional way of using it. You make tea out of the powder. That's it. Like for us, that's the way I use it every day. That's the way I tell people to use it. It's a tea. That's
Okay.
all it
So
is.
you would mix that in with hot water,
Correct.
right? Like a tea. So you just mix it in hot water and drink it. Yeah. Okay. Can you put it in a
Yep.
blender like a smoothie type of
Yeah,
thing?
sure. It has a bitter taste to it, so a lot of people don't like the taste, so they don't mix it into smoothies because then it makes the smoothie a little bitter. But if you're using banana and a lot of stuff like that, that covers up, that natural sweetness. But if you cover
So
up, then you can get away
right.
with it.
So if like me, I would use monk fruit. So
There you
I
go.
could use like a little bit of monk fruit because monk fruit is highly concentrated, like 150 times more sweet than sugar. So you use very
Oh
little.
yeah,
But yeah, so
we have
that
it in the
would take
cabinet.
away, yeah. So that would take away the bitter taste of kratom. Okay.
Yep, it would cut it down a
And
little bit. It's not
Yeah.
horrible. It's just, it's related to coffee. Have you ever had coffee that sat on the pot for 10 hours and you had a little sip of it and you're just like, "Bleh," it was just that bitter.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
like that. I don't know how else to explain
Or
it.
like
It's not
French
horrible,
roast
but
coffee. French roast is extremely bitter. The French
yeah,
roast
it's just
coffee.
that
Yeah.
bitterness, like a
Yeah.
really strong bitter coffee, but it reminds me of that. After 11 years, though, I don't care about the taste. It doesn't bother me
Yeah.
anymore. So I'm used to it.
So I've seen the kava bars out there. So how is
Yep.
kratom and kava? What are some of the similarities and differences between kava and kratom?
Well, yeah, Florida is one of the biggest states for kava and kratom bars in the United States. So, but most of the kava bars do sell and serve kratom as well.
Yeah,
So
I
kava,
recall that. Yes.
hmm
Yes.
yep.
They
So the
had
kava is a
kratom
root.
there.
The kava is a root. You don't
Okay.
use the leaves, or the stems. You use the root, and they, blend it and grind it, and then you squeeze it through a cheesecloth, and they brew it into a this drink, and it's relaxing. They've called it nature's benzo and this and that back in the day, and I remember hearing about kava, and it's just relaxing. It actually numbs your tongue a little bit. It's a very
Yeah, I
numbing
remember
type plant.
drinking it and feeling a little bit of numbness, not just my tongue, but
Yep,
around my mouth. It seemed like, yeah.
yep. It doesn't get you high or anything, either does kratom, but kava is very relaxing. There's a lot of people that mix kava and kratom together. I don't really
Okay.
like that because kava's kind of like a depressant and kratom's kind of like a stimulant. So
Okay.
you really don't want to do that. I
Right.
believe in using plants separately. I mean, if you want to put them together, great, but I wouldn't want, that to
Right.
be a
So
regular thing.
kratom is more of a picker upper.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
But the
That makes
plant,
sense.
what it is let me explain that because a lot of people get confused. If my normal amount is, say, 3 grams, 4 grams of kratom powder and water. So for me, that's a little energizing, gives me a little boost, a little relief. But if I were to take, say, 7 grams instead of that four, that would make me a little more tired, a little more relaxed. So the less you take
Hmm.
is more energizing. The more you
Really?
take is more relaxing. Yep. But you don't want to take
Ah,
too much or you'll throw up. That's the worst case scenario with the kratom powder. You take
right.
too much, you'll throw up. Then you don't do that much anymore. But it's finding that sweet spot. I tell everybody start with about 2 grams. That's it.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that's also
Or a
weight
teaspoon.
dependent. If you're a bigger person,
Not really.
250. No?
No. Nope. I've seen so many people that are 300 pounds, even people that are 300 pounds, 6 foot four. They take less kratom than this woman who's like 5 foot tall and
Okay.
120 pounds. So it all depends on your individual body and your chemistry.
Yeah.
So it's
So
really
the
has nothing to do with weight.
right. Okay. So the way to go about it is to be safe, just start with 2 grams then
Yes. Yeah,
of
start
kratom.
slow, start low, and you can always try more if that didn't really affect you and you're like, I didn't notice anything. You know what I mean? Then you could try more the next time. But 2 to 3 grams seems like the sweet spot. As far as metrogenine, that's about 30 milligrams of metrogenine, and that's like a good starting amount. There's,
Okay.
like I
Explain that.
said,
You said a word there I didn't know. Metrogenine.
metrogenine.
What is
Metrogenine
that?
is the main alkaloid in kratom, and it's the
Okay.
main alkaloid that gives the energy people feel. So different kratom and different colors have different levels of metrogenine. Usually greens have the highest metrogenine. Reds have the lowest metrogenine. Reds are more, noticed for relaxation and more for the evening.
Okay.
Greens are more for the daytime. So then you
Okay.
have white, whites are a little more stimulating. So it's
Okay.
just finding that it's the leaf color and the drying process of the leaf. There is science to it. There's a lot of chemistry to it, but the drying process is the drying process in the age of the leaf is what makes it a little different and different color.
Okay. Cool. Cool.
Older tree kratom's better. You don't want young tree kratom. You want older tree kratom, like the ones you see
Older
behind me.
tree. Okay. So older tree, larger the tree.
Correct.
And when you processing the kratom, it's you just take the leaves out. You're not killing the tree and then the
No,
leaves regrow. And
that's one
so
thing we
one
were
tree,
really. Ugh, we were really upset with that. We noticed there were groups back in the day, they were chopping the whole tree down, these old 40-year-old trees. And I was so upset with them. And we really worked with some of the groups out there to stop that process, to tell them to
there's no
stop
need to
doing
do
that,
that, right? There's
stop
no need to
stripping
do
them.
that.
Yeah, exactly. So now we have videos and pictures since 2017 where they're actually climbing the trees, picking them correctly. We're into
Okay.
sustainable harvesting. We make sure our farmers, we have a farmers group with about 250,000 farmers. It's like a co-op. We make sure the farmers are paid correctly. We make sure the trees are being replanted.
So
And
let's back up there. So why, first of all, why would someone, I'm assuming it's more convenient. It's easier to just cut the tree, you know, and then strip the leaves of it. They were just doing it to make it more convenient. That's it.
correct. That's it. Because
If,
how you
if
think about it, you got to climb a tree. Now you're climbing the
right.
tree to go strip the leaves instead of just chopping it down and it's on the
So
ground
it's
and
a
you can
little
just,
more dangerous for the
oh
individual. You
yeah,
got to climb the
oh
tree,
yeah,
but the tree then regrows the leaves. And then when,
correct.
what, the next year you can go back and climb the same tree again,
Yes,
right?
after about a
Or
year, that's the best bet. You want to
okay.
make the leaves on the tree for a year. Some of this commercial kratom that's out there, they harvest the tree 6 times a year. So the leaves are like just,
Okay.
they're not mature.
Yeah.
So,
It's amazing how the little details can make such a big difference.
yep,
And I, that's so critical because I go through that with my clients when I'm helping men with fitness. And like we were just talking about monk fruit, and like if you buy monk fruit from the shelf at a store, it's probably going to be diluted with something else because monk fruit is so concentrated that it won't sell well in a shelf because a little bag, a little square bag will cost like $30 because it's
yeah,
concentrated. It's so potent. So they mix it. So if you buy it at the store, they mix it in with a bunch of other stuff to make it, but then you have erythritol, sugar alcohol, and something else that's not so great for you, like the monk fruit is, and now it's not as healthy. And it's like, what's the point? If you're going to get monk
yep,
fruit, get the real thing. But
yep.
it's so interesting how these little details make a difference. And that's why, usually when you pay a little more for a quality product, it's often worth it. More often than not, it's worth pay the extra money, get the good quality. Like you can get products that come in about to my two on fitness. It's how people can reach out to you. And if they want to get Kratom, how can we find out about Christopher's Organic Botanicals? Give us some information, how we can get Kratom for ourselves out there.
Sure. Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned the quality because we had an issue back in 2020, 2023, when people weren't paying some of the farmers correctly. So they were sending half moringa, half guava leaves, and half kratom. So, yes, you want
Mm,
to know where you're getting it from. But you can
yeah.
check it up on our website, christophersorganicbotanicals.com. We do have lab results for every batch. You can download them, check them out. You can see the alkaloid balance. Everything's tested for heavy metals, bacteria, microbiology, just the way it's supposed to be done. We do everything. We're GMP certified. We get audited every year, and we're actually registered with the FDA. So we're doing everything we're supposed to
Great.
do. And we've been in business
Great.
for over a decade. So,
And I want to emphasize Christopher's, that's CHRISTOPHER, Organic Botanicals. Okay, so .com,
yep.
that's how people can find out about you. And we can get Kratom delivered to our homes. It's completely legal, right?
Correct. Most states
Yeah.
are it's completely legal right now. They have a few states that are going through the Kratom Consumer Protection Act. There's a few
Okay.
other states that have banned it outright, like Arkansas, Alabama, and stuff like that. So we're working on getting those bans overturned. Most of the bans are in place because of this, concentrated or synthetic products, and they didn't know what else to do. They just said we're banning everything until the government figures it out. So now we're waiting for the government to put down their
Okay.
rules, so we can take the next
Yeah.
step. Just I don't make the
Okay.
rules. I'm just trying to follow them and trying to save this planet.
Right.
So
Right. Great. Great. Well, I'm going to go into my 2 minute fit tip. And one of the things I'm going to talk about is the GLP-1 drugs, how
awesome.
Ozempic, Wegovy, a lot of these drugs, what they're doing is they're basically mimicking a animal-based diet. If you eat a lot of animal products like meat, pork, fish, chicken, turkey, what happens? Digestion slows down. Digestion slows down. So one of the benefits everyone says about the GLP-1 drugs, well, you're not hungry because digestion slows down. Well, yeah, you get that naturally. The GLP-1 pathway gets activated naturally when you eat animal-based products. So I tell people that, like, you don't need to get on the drug. If you change your diet to an animal-based diet, which is what more or less what humans should be doing anyway, you are going to slow digestion down. So digestion will decrease. And the animal fat, it takes 6 times longer to digest animal fat than it does a carbohydrate, like pasta, rice, all vegetables and fruit. It takes 6 times. You digest carbohydrates in 1 hour. Animal fat, it takes 6 hours to digest, to get the energy out of it, to process it. So digestion slows down. You go for longer periods without feeling hungry. That happens already naturally when you're eating an animal-based diet. And the other things that, and this kind of makes me, it irks me, it makes me mad, because a lot of people will talk about, well, since I've been in the GLP-1 drug, I'm happier, I feel better. And yeah, there's real effects. When you get on an animal-based diet, you're digesting more animal fats, which is actually really good for you, even though they've been demonized incorrectly in the past. But animal fats, think about this, your brain is 60% fat when you take out the water. So when you eat natural animal fats, your brain functions better. You naturally get happier. There have been studies that have shown that a ketogenic diet, which is basically the ketogenic diet, means your body is processing fat for fuel. That when your body starts doing that, it becomes ketogenic, which means you've been eating a lot of animal products and a lot of natural fat. You can cure yourself of anxiety, depression, even major depression. Has studies, scientific studies have shown that that improves on a ketogenic animal-based diet. So that's one thing I want to talk about today. Similar to Kratom, that you want to get the natural leaf, use it, use the whole product, not synthesize it and make it into a patented drug. We don't want to do that. It's the same thing with the GLP-1 drugs. They've taken some of the benefits of an animal-based diet, activate the GLP-1 pathway. The body already produces the GLP-1. Scientists have taken that natural enzyme, altered it a little bit, put a patent on it, and now they're trying to sell it to you for a lot of money, when you can naturally get this by just eating the proper animal products. Similar story to Kratom. But Christopher, thank you so much for coming on here and introducing and telling us about Kratom. I think the future looks good for the plant, and thank you for preserving it and keeping it whole and doing things the right way. Um, and I appreciate it. And just say goodbye to everyone.
Right.
And thank you all for watching this edition of the Better Wealth and Health Podcast. We will see you next time.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye bye. You have a great day.